Well, so, you think about the not so distant past. It shouldn't come as a surprise to you. My opinion, I'd love to hear your thoughts. One of the biggest mainstream media scandals that we now are faced to deal with today is that Politico received massive funds from the United States government to the tune of, we're now finding out, $34.3 million at least. Those are just the transactions that we know about now. And so you're looking at this and, wait, there's more. We'll get to those in a second. But you're looking at this and you're like, hold on. What in the hell could the U.S. government be spending $34 million on to Politico? But I want to couple this with the fact that I don't know if it's related. I would love to find out. But apparently yesterday, Politico was, they didn't pay their staff. Their staff didn't get paid on their typical payday, and they were trying to figure out what happened. And so Politico sent an email to their employees saying they thought it was a technical error.
They said Trump's Hitler and we couldn't pay you.
Sorry. Blame Trump.
Did this happen just after the USAID website went down?
Yes.
Is it really?
Yes. So that's why I'm saying, like, was it just an actual technical error, or was it because all of that USAID money ran dry and all of a sudden...
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
All of a sudden, they couldn't figure out, we don't know. Okay, we're talking with the bank. We're talking with our payment service. We're not really sure, but we promise we're going to work on it as quickly as possible. Is that related? I would really like to find out. But it's not just Politico. Thomson Reuters, of course, the world's largest multimedia news provider, was awarded funds by the Department of Defense as well, $9 million in September of 2020. Why in the hell would the Department of Defense need to be paying Reuters that amount of money for anything? I would love to know. Oh, it's not just them. The Associated Press has also been implicated. They've received $619,968 in the last 12 months from the United States government. And they've also got a huge influx. Like, you go back to 2018, nearly $5 million, 2019, $6 million, 2020, $6 million, 2021, $3 million, 2022, $4 million, 2023, $4.5 million. And they've got, individual awards as well.
What year is that? Just nothing. Sorry, I can't see from...
Yeah, no.
The bar graph was just fun because it's clearly the Biden administration. It's just extremely high.
Yeah. So it's like, look at all of this. This is absurd. The New York Times, tens of millions of dollars in the last 5 years when you add it all up. And it goes on and on. And so I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, we all know that the mainstream media is state-run media, right? Like, we all know they're carrying the Democrats' water. We all know that they're working with the Democrats, in cahoots with them, to push the Democrat agenda. But to see the sheer amount of money that taxpayer... I don't think the
Democrats have water.
What do you think?
Big problem.
That is true. They don't like water. They prefer the smelt fish.
Yes.
But when you look at, Department of HHS is paying the New York Times $26.9 million. What the hell is going on? The National Science Foundation?
Nothing. It's a drop in the bucket.
19.5. Well, it's not nothing to me.
Well, that's a big sum, but that's what I would like to start off with saying. I think it's hilarious that the entire country now has discovered USA spending. That has basically been my home for the past decade. Well, I've been working for Glenn.
So do you love that everyone else figured it out?
Oh, no, I love it because we've been reporting on it nonstop and no one was like, no big deal. No, now all of a sudden it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's, oh, wait, USAID? Who's this guy? We've been talking about these people for a decade. It's absolutely insane. And there's been no movement. I am ecstatic. Mm-hmm. Now, I looked at it's just hilarious. This is a throwaway show that I was researching when I saw us come on your show and you were going to talk about this. I looked through one of my research docs. And I'm glad you brought up the New York Times thing. This is something I put together, I think it was last year. We were thinking about doing a show on all the same thing, and something bumped it out. But New York Times, not only do they get funding from like HHS and all that stuff, DOD, I just wrote down really quick some contracts, $304,000. Doesn't really say why.
For what?
Another contract, separate contract from Department of Defense for New York Times, $144,000. Department of Treasury, $122,000. This is just in 2023. So these are things that get re-upped and reused every single year. Office of the President, $111,000. That's what I'm saying. It's a drop in the bucket. It's Comcast, NBC. They have a subsidiary called National Capital Contracting. They do IT, a bunch of other things. Millions. I couldn't even count. I was looking through. I was like, I'm just going to put millions. It's millions. That's NBC.
Yeah, it's $1 million. It's millions to pay a middleman before you get to where you need to get the information to, essentially. Okay.
Washington Post through Bezos and his group Graham Holdings, $500,000 for the Washington Post just last year. And again, this is nothing, y'all. This is nothing. I'm not even going through all the different agencies that are giving them money. This is a drop in the bucket to advertising. The U.S. government and their top 25 expenditures spent $1.3 billion. They do that a year. $1.3 billion in advertising to many of these publications. Now, remember when there was a craze when they were like, "Oh my God, no one's buying our papers anymore. What do we do?" They cut the government funding off and said, "Hey, we're not going to just give you guys free subscriptions anymore. You're not going to have to pay for them." Well, that was very, very strategic because now you have basically created this huge conflict of interest with the government. Now they're basically your employer.
Yep.
So you do whatever the hell they tell you to do.
Right.
When we say, "Oh, the government doesn't give money to American media," BS. They absolutely do. I love that this is coming out now.
Well, I mean, it's not just the giving of the money; it's the headlines that go along with it. Right? It's the attacking of Elon Musk and, getting X and making sure that we all had freedom of speech. It's the attacking alternative news outlets like Rumble. It's the, it's the Donald Trump is a Nazi. I mean, should we expect anything different?
But what about
the government owns them?
Yeah, but what about the DEI stuff where it was like $1.3 million to have transgender surgery in Yemen? Yeah. I'm misquoting it, but I saw it yesterday.
It might as well be that.
It was like it was literally $47,000 for a rock opera to do with
transgender opera.
In Ireland.
Yeah.
Which I can tell you, no one's going to enjoy. I'd go see it. But the amount, just reading off this list, you're like, this is a joke, right? You're just sitting around. I know $47,000 is nothing, but it is enough to help a family for a year, even one American family.
Right.
That's why this is so staggering that and you're doing this so you can tell America that this pudding-brained guy who has no business being in office is competent.
Right.
And you're spending the taxpayers' money we don't have.
Yep.
On this stuff, so you can just convince so you can gaslight an entire country.
Yeah. By the way, only the U.S. government could say that $49,000 is nothing,
right?
Or only $1 million.
Yeah, I know you keep saying you're like, "Oh, that's nothing. It's just a drop in the bucket." I'm like, hold on a second.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is your money, our money that they're just using. I mean.
Yeah, people in Chad would love a bucket.
Oh God!
I don't even have a bucket.
Go ahead.
I think that what's really cool for me to see right now is I think that people are starting all over the country now are starting to see that the money that they've worked hard on, that you pay to the IRS every single year, is getting used to not only fund American media and be a giant propaganda arm for them, but basically to fund a huge societal experiment on the entire world. I mean, $50,000 for some kind of opera in Ireland? Yeah. Wait, what? Stuff like that is all over the place now, and it's still well. Luckily now it's not happening for the moment. But what happens in 4 years? Yeah, start again.
Well, and add all the tax you pay together: housing, sales, your own income. It's 50% of everything you make, and every American citizen being dumped into this.
Yeah. I mean, I just you have to have a certain level of respect for the forwardness that places like China, North Korea, Russia have, where it's like, yeah, we have state-run media. That's what we do, right? You at least admire the fact that they're willing to be truthful about that.
It's like Bernie Sanders.
Literally.
Versus Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, it's okay, I mean, I at least respect the fact that you say, you're actually saying it, you're very open about it, you're not trying to hide anything.
You're socialist.
But the level of disrespect to do this behind the Americans' backs. I mean, I know it's not secret because it's on this website, but it also is. You know what I mean? Because you've got these, Reuters, you've got these New York Times, you've got all of these outlets that claim that they're independent, claim that they have no ties to the state, and then are receiving that amount of funds. And as they're receiving that amount of funds, they're writing hit pieces on all of these people's political opponents. I mean, like that is the level of, you just don't hate journalists in the mainstream media enough. You just really don't. If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.